Hello, it's me, back from the dead, back from the void, one might say, actually. But that is what I want to talk about today. I have been wanting to make this video forever and ever, for months. I have been taking notes ever since the plot was first announced, as you might have seen in my previous video. So I just want to jump right into this. I don't really know how to start. The AMA came out, the Void Within specific AMA, and I was just the whole time I was shaking. My heart was pounding. I felt like biting things. I was so excited. And the thing, it just fills my heart with so much joy and excitement to see this team that cares so much about the lore of Neopets and the world building aspect of it, and to see how much care they've taken to weave these different plot threads and characters together, and to highlight certain characters. We just had the April Fool's event, which featured Chadley, and oh my goodness, I've actually been hoping to see Chadley for such a long time. But anyways, I'm sorry, we should just get started. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is look back on the original video I made about the plot, when we really didn't have any information about it specifically other than the title, and to see sort of how my thoughts have changed and react to it. I might have already said react to it, but I forgot. Anyways, let's go before I have nothing else to say, so yes, I have a lot to say, but let's just go do it. I don't know how to speak, I'm sorry. Alright, so I have multiple notebooks. I have this one that I've written things in. Let's see. Oh! Here you can see some of the notes. The notes I took during the AMA are blue. So you can see the things I was particularly excited I was struggling to get these down. I was shaking as I wrote them. Um, all our dreams are coming true. That was a quote from the AMA. And, tangible character moments. Hanso and Bryn are getting last names. That was the big one. They didn't specifically say that, but oh my god, I have a good feeling, and I will explain why in a moment. I see how all the threads are connected. Let's see, do we have another page more in this? Oh, okay, it's in this one. I know I said I was going to. Okay, so here is, you might recognize this from my first video, but here's how it's expanded, and Hanso and Bryn do fit into all of this, so I am confident in saying that they will at least get some sort of cameo in this upcoming plot. Makes sense? So, yeah, sorry, I should just get started with watching this video. I'm putting it off because I don't want to, although I feel like this one's probably worse. I don't even know what I'm saying. Okay, here we go. Where is it? Oh, right, this one.
Hello again.
Hello.
I'm back with another Neopets video. I thought that since we got a little teaser for the new plot, it would be fun just to kind of go over the information we have so far and see what we can extrapolate from it. Maybe
bad as
there are people out there who have sort of their own theories. So first, and most obviously, we have the little clip from the end of the recent New Era video. And we also have this clip from the Nosy Neopians podcast where they interviewed Aesop or featured Aesop, and I'm just gonna play that little clip for you so you have the context.
We do have a few we've been talking about. There's one that we've been working really hard on. We have a team internally.
Oh my god, I'm sorry. Okay, it's good to see this again, but I remember like speeding this up because I was so afraid of I didn't really understand what the rules were to be able to use just like a straight chunk of someone else's work in your own thing, and I was so scared because it was like over 30 seconds or whatever it is that I was going to get in big trouble. So I was trying so hard because it was important to have the whole thing in, but I didn't know how to include it without it being over that time limit, so I was trying so hard to condense it, and I'm pretty sure it's still over that time, whatever it is, 30 seconds, I think. I don't know. I'm not a professional. But okay, sorry. Let's hear what Aesop had to say. Past Aesop.
That has been for the past year or two picking apart how we're going to tackle it, and we're getting in pretty good shape with the narrative side of things. I don't want to give away too much. I definitely can't. I'll let you know now that we will visit a couple different lands across Neopia. It's not going to be just focused in one. It's going to be more of a global adventure. It'll focus on a certain fairy who I don't think we've featured enough, so I'm really excited to have them in the limelight. And we're also going to be bringing in a couple other characters that have not been featured quite enough, as well as some really new, exciting characters, and possibly some older characters that you may have only seen art of, but never actually had much of a story about. So I'm going to keep it very vague for you guys, but we have a lot of really exciting stuff. I'm super excited to show you guys.
And
okay, that, I almost lost sight of the fact that he said focus on a fairy, so it was good to see that again, actually. Okay, let's continue. What do you have to say?
this is going a bit further, I think, in terms of just speculation, but there has been this mysterious building that has appeared in Moltara that
Oh, we already know that. It's it's the obsidian whatever, I don't even remember what it was called, but it was so exciting to see. Like, a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about now ended up coming to fruition in the Faerie Festival storyline as opposed to the actual plot, but it did play into, like, sort of the plot insofar as that this, that the team is actually focused on world building and creating an immersive narrative that users can engage in as it evolves, not just having it, localized to the main event, which is the plot. We're actually seeing changes in the world of Neopia, which is something I really appreciate, and that's something I feel like has been missing for a long time, that sort of level of care. And, a big thing about plots is that how they change. Oops, I dropped my notebooks. How they changed Neopia and the Neopian experience, like, even in just little ways. Like, we have the discovery of Meridel, we have the discovery of Boris in Hannah and the Ice Caves. We had the Tale of Woe that introduced us to Neovia. We had Fairyland falling and the Fairies Rune. So I think part of the immersion of plots that made them so special and so memorable was how the lore is tied into the user experience. And it also sort of creates these special memories for the people who were there during those plots, or who even read the comics afterwards and enjoyed them, that they can have sort of attached to their experience of the site and remember what the story was behind it when you go to Fairyland and it's no longer in the clouds, or it's on the ground. Or you remember you adopt a Bori and you remember Hannah and the Ice Caves, things like that. I think that's a really special aspect of Neopets. So I will continue. Sorry.
the most concrete piece of sort of evidence we have is obviously that teaser image with the silhouette. And I really had a hard time figuring out what kind of pet this character was supposed to be. My first thought was maybe a Kiri because they sort of look like they have a mane and maybe that
It's not a Kiri. Dummy.
face shape and the ears are kind of obscured behind the text. So I thought maybe they were just, two pointy little Kiri ears. But then I looked at the
I do understand. I mean, of course I understand why I thought that, because I'm the one who thought it. But it was hard to see the ears behind the text, and I was just kind of going off like a cursory glance. I wasn't like, really deeply analyzing it at that point. But yeah, it's kind of funny that I thought it was a Kiri, because that's so clearly not a Kiri tail.
tail. And if it were a Kiri, the tail would be quite a bit fluffier, I would
Yeah,
think.
exactly.
So then I was looking again and I noticed that um the the little the ears actually kind of looked like they were on top of little antennae, and the tail looked quite a bit like an Aisha tail. But those would be like really short little antennae for an Aisha or an Aisha, sorry.
Yeah, that's really what threw me, I think, because they looked so short behind the text. It was really hard to see how, but I guess I'm just looking at them like popping up from the hair. They could have been down closer to the forehead, which makes sense, but I guess that's kind of added to the mystique of it. The silhouette kind of throws you off because you don't get a sense of depth. And also, I remember thinking with this tail, like, it kind of had to be an Aisha or a Bloomaroo, I thought, because those are the only pets I could think of that would have this tail shape and ears that are kind of like stick up like that. They could have been like Bloomaroo ears that were like folded over somehow, I thought, but no, it is an Aisha. I'm still doing it. An Aisha, and her name is Nyx, we've learned from the live stream. So that's very exciting. And we also know that they're a she now, which I didn't like. I mean, they're drawn in a very feminine way, but I also just didn't want to like assume their gender. Oh yeah, this. I made a typo here, I think. Yeah, I did. Um, which is really embarrassing, but oh well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
So
Um,
we've
and
seen
the
that too
title is the
in the Advent Calendar comics, where her arm turns into the void, and then the Faerie saves her, who is a mechanic apparently. That's so adorable. I'm really excited to see pets explored more and to take on a more central role in things. That's something I've really wanted for a long time, and I was actually just looking at the concept art for Tales of Neopia. This is kind of a tangent, but one of them has like full-sized Winnie mounts in it, and I just thought that was so awesome, and I wish we could see more things like that on the actual site, because a lot of the time unis just end up taking on the roles of like beasts of burden, even though they are like sapient beings like other Neopets. I really wish we could see more uni content of unis just sort of existing in the world amongst other Neopets instead of basically just taking on the role of a horse. So that's my little tangent, but maybe we will get something like that with the shopkeepers, because, oh, what's her name? Oh gosh, I know this. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. Oh my god. I know, because did I mention it in this video? I know Sorry. Anyways, I deleted my old Neopets lore video because I was kind of embarrassed by it, and I didn't really stand by some of the things, some of the headcanons I had anymore didn't really make sense, and that was a really weird time in my life. And watching it back, there are some things I said that I just genuinely do not remember why, and I cannot remember the rationale behind them. So I said goodbye to that, and maybe I'll make a new one at some point, but I don't really feel like I need to. I don't know. I'm looking forward to making more of the videos like the Gellert one that I did about different species. I think that was really fun, and now that I'm almost finished with this semester of university, I'll have more time to work on things like that. But, oh, I dropped the notebooks again, sorry. Okay, sorry. We'll keep going.
Void Within. I'm not sure. I'm assuming that's the final title for it, if that's what they're putting out into the world.
It is indeed.
As their big announcement. So I would be very surprised if they changed that. Assuming the plot he's talking about that they were working on is this same plot, The Void Within. And I imagine it would be. That would be a lot of work to throw away.
Oh my goodness. Speaking of that, yes, it is, because during the AMA, not this one. I believe it was the holiday one. The one in December, I guess it would have been, or January maybe. He said that Gutterfoot had also been working on this plot for a time. And okay, sorry, this is going to be so disorganized. No, it's in the other notebook. Okay. So this was like an oh my goodness moment. So, okay, so I have my little map here. So, let's see. During that AMA, Aesop said that color would be very important to this plot. I don't know if you can see that. He also mentioned how Gutterfoot was working on it, and it's been in the works for a long time. And speaking of color, okay, years ago, not years ago, it was maybe around 2020 or so, I don't remember exactly when it was, but I asked an editorial question about sort of the lore behind different Neopets colors, and sort of how the sort of more unique, just kind of more aesthetic colors, like toy and chocolate and things like that factor into the lore. Those probably aren't good examples. Why can't I think? Okay, but anyways, Gutterfoot answered, and she said she was talking about how maybe there are like different sort of alternate realities within Neopia, and you could have an 8-bit reality, or like a chocolate Neopia with chocolate Geordie, and it would be really cute. But oh my goodness. Okay, so it's all coming together. I'm sorry. She said, and I quote, one of the examples she gave, a dimensional Neopia with a variant of Xandra, terrifying. Maybe one day someone will build a portal into one of these alternate universes. That would be fun. And at first I took that as just sort of a fun answer. It seemed so unlikely we were going to get any sort of meaningful event during the Jumpstart years that I kind of just wrote it off. Like, if somebody had answered that today, if said, maybe one day someone will build a portal, that would be fun, I would be like, oh my goodness, that's a hint. But times have changed a lot in the past. It hasn't even been a year, which is crazy to think. But anyways, okay, Dimensional Xandra was the last example she gave before closing the answer with that. And Now let's go to the trick-or-treat bags, and Xandra's in particular. Xandra's story from the trick-or-treat event. Okay, sorry, it's so hard. Like, there are so many connecting threads, and it's so hard for me to just jump from one thing to the other without explaining my rationale for why thinking all these are relevant, which I will do in a minute. But anyways, okay, so, okay, sorry, I'll just quickly explain this first. Hopefully you can actually follow me. But, okay, so all of the stories from the trick-or-treat bags have some sort of connection. They either directly reference the void, or imagery associated with the void, or darkness, or something connected to the three, which in their story mentions they, like, a line from their story is, "The void to their mind is open," referring to how they influence people. So that's sort of I'm doing a terrible... Let me just collect my thoughts for a second. Okay, so Xandra. I do think... Okay, sorry. We're getting away from the books for a second. I'm sorry. Okay, so one of another thing that was mentioned in the AMA in reference to the comic, that sort of teaser comic at the end of the Faerie Festival event, was that Vera and the mysterious fairy, possibly Drakara, although I still think it's possible that it's not actually her and it was just like a sort of shortcut they used in terms of like recycling assets, that they just sort of traced a silhouette of existing art. I think that's also a possibility, but it could also be Drakara. I don't know. But anyways, so Vera and our mysterious fairy friend. The quote was, or not a direct quote, this is just a note I took, but essentially saying they are not alone. I'm sorry, I forget exactly which TNT member said this, but they're not alone. They may have made a new friend. Bad things often come in threes. And, I mean, okay, this sounds like a leap of logic, but I don't know. I think it is possible that the third person could somehow be Xandra. That's kind of a stretch, but like, who has a massive vendetta against Fiora? And there's also the fact that as I will sort of get into more, a lot of the sort of theming in terms of this storyline seems to be kind of light versus dark, and those themes are reflected in many of the Halloween trick-or-treat stories. For example, within Xandra's story, it references these disappearances that only happen at night, and how dark the forest was, and how this glow, that it's not really sort of expanded on exactly what happened, but essentially it's dark, and then some glowy magic with a bunch of little artifacts that Xandra does, using another student as bait, is what defeats the monster. So it's dark, and then glowing defeats the monster. Considering that, we know that Xandra studied with the fairies, and it's never explicitly stated that the fairy, or that the other student was a Neopet, and I'm honestly thinking that this page could have been it's a school assignment that I believe it was supposed to be writing about someone you admire, and I believe, like, I really think this is from Luxinia. Luxinia is the one who wrote this. And, like, given the context of the story, it would make sense for Xandra to try to use a light fairy as bait, which Luxinia is, and throughout sort of the Faerie's Hope storyline, she seems to be very uncomfortable with the dark, which would make sense given this traumatic event that Xandra put her through. And it also says, sort of in the introduction to what we are reading, it says that one page has been preserved with extra care, which would make sense again for Luxinia as someone, or as we see from Faerie's Hope. I'm sorry, I can't really get a lot of screenshots from it because it's down, but hopefully I can find some to put in here. Yeah, they ended up being friends, and they talk, Luxinia talks about having tea with her again, sort of towards the end of this this piece that she wrote about Xandra for school. Yeah, so that's kind of, maybe that was a bit of a tangent. It was more a theory about how, who wrote Xandra's page rather than how it connects to the story. But going back to the editorial, I think it's very curious that it was Aesop who specifically confirmed that Baelia was a light fairy before being turned into a gray fairy. And again, I know I'm going to get into this more in my video, which I'm supposed to be reacting to, but that Baelia would also fit the bill in terms of the fairy it's supposed to focus on, like he said at the Nosy Neopians clip. Oh, that makes me so sad. Bye, Nosy Neopians. We know, oh yeah, and I mean, we know now that this plot is supposed to be ongoing for years, so there is potentially room for a lot of development between different characters. We know there are supposed to be emotional moments. So, I mean, Baelia is kind of my first thought in terms of who this story, or who the fairy Aesop was referring to, is supposed to be, but I also think it could potentially be Luxinia, because, you know, we had, and it sort of actually does coincide with Faerie's Hope being revamped now, to think, and, you know, we're supposed to have these big, tangible, emotional character moments in this plot, and that would make sense for a conflict between Xandra and Luxinia. So yeah, that's kind of my thought right now, but I don't know. Sorry, I've rambled a lot, so let's get back to seeing what I said before in this video.
If they completely changed directions, and it seemed like if they are putting out this teaser, they already had some things finalized before the management switch. So
yeah, okay. So yeah, I go on. I remember this. I talk about how you know what? Okay, wait. Let's go back to the new homepage for a second. That gives me an idea, actually. All articles. Okay, so in the AMA, they were talking about how sort of using this plot as a means to, it sort of encompassed the spirit, I suppose, of coming back after a long time away, and also introducing these new characters, but also help, sort of serving as a means to help either new or returning players to get to know older characters who they might not know that much about. So, all right. Champions of Meridel, Hannah, the Ice Caves, the Altador plot, Faerie's Ruin, Virtue Pet Space Station. Oh, okay. I just wanted to see which plots they mentioned here because I thought that could potentially be a hint. Oh, I love this picture of Bryn. I'm sorry, this is the one she throws her own sword to save Hanso from the wraiths, and then she gets captured. Anyways, I'm sorry, she just looks so badass. So, what was I gonna say? I thought maybe this sort of would give us some sort of hint in terms of which plots or which characters they were focusing on, if they wanted to sort of use this opportunity to introduce us or sort of to reintroduce players to those characters, but I don't think that's what this is. I think maybe, I don't know. And again, with these characters, are these all of... Okay, so who did we have? We had the Darkest Fair. These are all characters from the notebooks, or not the notebooks, but the Halloween Trick-or-Treat books. I think everybody's here except for the Shadow Usul, which is interesting. That also gives credence to the idea that they're all somehow gonna sort of be, I don't know, somehow manifestations of this void, and all of these past villains are going to play a role in the plot. Because another thing that makes me think that is the editorial answer that Aesop gave in issue 1000 of the Neopean Times, where he said, rumors circulate about the leaders of various lands preparing for the possibility of the unprecedented era of peace they've enjoyed coming to an end. And having that sort of large-scale global conflict would really... Oh yeah, Vera's not here either, I guess. She's like the main one that we know about, and I forgot her. But I do think that would make sense to have all these villains coming back, and then to have to influence this global conflict. And it's Faerie who said introducing old characters to new players. Sorry. I think Orion seems like he's probably going to be a main character in this plot. I'm really curious to see what they do at the Festival of Niggs, because, like, they've been very sort of lore and character heavy the past few years, which I have loved. That's just meant so much to me. And, like, obviously this one is going to tie into the plot somehow. I don't know if Orion's going to come back, but, he's a really nice character. I really enjoy him. I relate to him a lot. Like, he just wants to help, but every time he comes in and someone's like, wow, just shut up, that's weird and unacceptable. Anyways, I'm really interested to see how he develops as a character. But what I was gonna say, so obviously I think Nyx and Orion are both probably gonna play bigger roles in this plot, and another thing that relates to Brinso was saying in the AMA that new and old character dynamics are going to take sort of are sort of going to get a spotlight, and that hopefully people will be able to relate to them. And what is a more iconic character dynamic than Brinso? So that's one reason. You know what? Should I just get my Brinso round over with now? Okay, I have more Brinso notes here. So, We know fairies are going to play a role in this, specifically Fiora, as we saw in both the Faerie Festival and the Advent Calendar. So, and they both work for Fiora. Now, that if my Xandra theory is correct, that also adds another level of connection to Brynn and Hanso. And Fiora mentioned Brynn specifically at the end of the Faerie Festival. Hooray! So, there is the Fiora connection, and also the fact that she specifically came to the Advent Calendar because Orion was messing about with a dangerous fairy artifact. And who are the artifact collectors and protectors and securers? Hanso and Brynn. Yes. What else? Oh, the fact that even though they don't live in Brightvale anymore, they live in Fairyland now. Brightvale is Brynn's homeland, and it does have a very strong connection to them, and it was one of the only, Neopian land shown, I believe, in the Advent Calendar vision, of Nyx, doing whatever she was doing. I think, okay, so, let's see. Somewhere in the universe and returning to Neopia were two of the items given from the Advent Calendar during the comic days, the Void Within comics. So that definitely very much connects to the whole theme of being away from somewhere and then coming back. And then on the 30th, there was an irrelevant, or seemingly irrelevant, little Grundo animation, which was cute, but the items we got from that day was a Virtupets delivery pilot training manual, and that kind of made me wonder if that's Nyx's job, and that's what she was doing in space, and how she discovered this void, which I think that's a possibility. She has her little mechanic companion to help her out. She's goes to make around making space deliveries, I suppose, which is really cool. Oh, I remember something else I said later on this video. I'm not doing a very good job. I'm sorry. Okay, so what else? Okay, so in the how can you leave me all alone page, it seems like the device sort of stopped the void from spreading. I don't know if that's really the case, but then in other art of the Faerie, he also has like a collar on that he didn't have in the other art, and seems to be okay. So that kind of makes me think that, yeah, whatever our little buddy did to the wrist watch thing, was to protect Nyx from the void. And that also, ties to the power of friendship, which was another item we got from the Advent Calendar during those plot-relevant days. And that seems like, obviously, there's some technological component to it, but thematically, it very much feels like overcoming this void through the Faelie's will and his willingness to hold on to those, sort of the best part, or like one's willingness to hold on to the best parts of oneself, even in the worst of times, versus falling into despair and pessimism and acting out of desperation, ambition, greed, and revenge. So that's kind of my thought, because we also, that's sort of the light versus dark, the hope versus despair, the connection to Cass and the three within the void that we see. So I do think this void does have a very strong connection to the three. Perhaps they were born from the void somehow. Perhaps it's just something they exploit for their own gain. I don't know, but that's sorry. Wow, I'm losing my voice. What else? Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the video, and hopefully that will help me get back on track.
Neopets homepage, so that could also tie in to getting her sort of prepared to launch her into this new plot, because my train of thought is jumping all over this place. I wrote down, I have like this whole like sort of red yarn conspiracy map.
That's pathetic. Look at it now.
I was trying to solve all of this, or not solve, but try to put together what I could.
I couldn't even fit all of it on here.
How different things could relate and interconnect, because when I hear the void within, void could relate to darkness potentially, and Eudora is a dark fairy, and I think a lot of people would really love to see more of her character explored. And
a lot of my predictions here came true more for the Faerie Festival.
I would love to see something in a plot that really goes more in depth into the relationship. So that could be that part of the void. Maybe it sort of relates to darkness, dark magic somehow. And another interpretation could be like a sense of emptiness and depression, which could relate to a gray fairy.
I still do stand by that, and I do. The pets turning this magical gray that was stated in the AMA, that it can't be just turned back by regular painting, does bear a very sort of striking parallel between that and gray fairies. So the gray fairy possibility is still very strong.
But old characters that we haven't really seen a lot of, or that we may have only heard of or seen art of. And that made me think of Salandra, who is Queen Fiora's maid.
I do think she could still play a part. Maybe just like as a cameo sort of thing. I do think it's possible, since it seems like Fiora is gonna be or play some role in this. It seems like maybe a lot of world leaders will, across Neopia, based on Aesop's editorial answer. So that's interesting.
So maybe Tara will have something to do with it, and the mention of technological advancements makes me think of virtue pets, and I don't know if that's going to be a thing in it or not. That could be pretty exciting, going to space. I don't know.
We did go to space!
But like the mention of technology does make me think of that. I think it's quite a curious thing. I wonder where all of these technological advancements are coming from. First thought is Dr. Sloth.
No, they're coming from the mysterious tower and the cowboy Vandegeyer, who was working for someone else, who was Malchus Vile, and he was working for Balthazar, I think, or they were just connected, they were working together maybe, but then Balthazar was working for someone else, and we don't know who that someone else was, presumably the mysterious fairy. So there was a lot going on there. Dr. Sloth did not have a part in it, but he could potentially still have a part in this. So part of his little Halloween book read, I have faced the void of the unknowable and survived to tell the truth, which is referring to Sloth's mind by one of his subjects. And then they go on to say they've bided their time and gathered like-minded followers. So it seems like, I don't know if Dr. Sloth himself is going to show up, but I do think that possibly individuals who have been influenced by him may play a part, and that's going to be his part. Maybe they will free him. Who knows? But anyways, hi, Dr. Sloth.
It could even be a thing where, a situation where things he set in motion are sort of taking hold, but he is not currently directly connected to it. Like, for example, a couple years ago, I think it was, with the Festival of Negs.
Oh my gosh, I'm so dumb. See, I mentioned the Festival of Negs with Mechatopsy in this video for some reason, but I completely neglected the most recent Festival of Negs that had a void theme, and the plot was called... How did you miss that, girl? Okay. You silly, silly lady. Alright, so, now, so for the Festival of Negs, let's see. Again, that has a fairy connection, connection to space, just checking my notes here. The color purple, corruption, let's see. We got the Void Blade as an item from the Festival of Negs. The sort of the text, when you use it in the Battle Dome, says that it opens a dark, inky rifts in the air. Sorry, I can't read my own writing, my goodness. And then, what else? Oh, right, the Void Neg. This is another note I took, and then it was sort of reinforced by the Void Neg being the item we were given from the rare item code for Grendo's Warehouse during the live stream. So the description of the Void Neg is a void looking into the center of this neg, lest the void devour what makes you whole. Now that, again, sort of lends to the idea of the void being sort of this loss of our better selves, for a lack of a better word, or the corruption of values, which, again, that sort of loss of identity plays into the gray fairies and thereby the gray pets, i.e. the shopkeepers who are currently turning, and it also, you know, plays into corruption and the three and depression and desperation and, sorry, I can... Okay, so, yeah, there was that. And then, continuing on with that theme, again with the power of friendship, we got the power of friendship item as well as the holiday memories. Now, that was obviously sort of a very festive holiday item, but it also, if you can remove the sort of cultural context from it, it is essentially an item that reflects something like meaningful interpersonal experiences. And there, again, we have the power of friendship, and when you use it in the Battle Dome, it says, you invoke the power of friendship, and for a moment you think of all your Neopets friends standing with you. Then you swing with great force. So, again, sort of the themes of relationships, identity, love, and meaning, I think will play a very strong, or seem to be sort of the central themes of this plot, which also connects to Brinso. um, oh yeah, okay, so I went on to mention that we're talking about the technological innovations, and then I think I mentioned scientists and inventors and how many there were, and then I specifically mentioned Dr. Landelbrot, who ended up showing up in the Faerie Festival plot, so that was super exciting. Well, he didn't show up, but he was mentioned. So, again, my predictions coming true for the Faerie Festival, not necessarily for the plot.
But something has just triggered all of this new technology and these advancements in science to sort of come to fruition at this moment in time. The fact that they use the Defenders of Neopia for their the little banner image for their Medium article got me thinking about them and thinking how cool it would be to have a plot centered around the Defenders of Neopia. They're also kind of characters we haven't seen explored a lot.
I don't know. I think it's possible, since these graying Neopets, I say that like they're getting old, but these Neopets who are turning gray seem to be centralized in Neopia Central. I think it's possible for us to see either in an upcoming event or in the plot itself, at least sort of a cameo of the Defenders of Neopia trying to sort of work out what this problem is or what's going on, and sort of maybe getting help from the outside. Oh my goodness, I have so many thoughts, and I forgot if I already mentioned this, but that was sort of another idea I had, that maybe we'll have a couple main characters like Nyx and Orion, and they will interact with sort of different heroes from different lands throughout the course of the story to go up against different villains who are influencing this world and perpetuating the central conflict in different ways. And then before fighting sort of like the final boss. Maybe I imagine it, yeah, I'm almost imagining like I guess perhaps Lord of the Rings would be a good example, where it's a very sort of far-reaching adventure that has a bunch of different very sort of relevant and important characters who all play their own roles in, how they deal with this conflict and what, how they fight, what they contribute, how they're connected to it. So, yeah, that's sort of how I'm envisioning this plot unfolding right now, but we'll see. What was I saying in this video?
All these sort of unique fantasy worlds.
Oh, I was talking about Neopia Central.
The specific theming. I think it would be just so cool to see more of an adventure that starts out with what everyday life is like for the citizens of Neopia. I think.
Yeah, I still feel that way, and I feel like it's more, not necessarily to have that sort of slice of life thing, but to get more focus on Neopia Central, because there's so much, like, I love the fantasy elements of Neopets, but the Neopia Central right now, it almost feels more like a kind of a player hub than an actual sort of land that gets explored in the lore. Like, Neopia Central doesn't even have its own Altador Cup team. So I would really like to see more done with Neopia Central in terms of sort of the world of Neopets as a whole.
We haven't really seen a lot of just that sort of slice of life element incorporated into Neopets plots since the Champions of Meridel, I think.
That's true. Well, no, maybe, I guess we kind of saw that at the beginning of Return of Dr. Sloth, where Sylara and her parents go to the space station and they're marveling at all the technology and how they have, like, little robot pets and everything. That was fun. I'd love to see more things like that, of just, like, characters being exposed to different cultures, just different cultures within Neopia in general. I think that would be really interesting, something I'd personally love to see explored more. One thing I really love about this plot is that we're sort of, it seems like we're gonna get more sort of the magic and the culture around paintbrushes explained to us, because that, like, changing your entire color as a Neopet seems like such a, a massive thing, and we know that paintbrushes do exist within the lore. They're not just like a tool to use on the site to change your pet's color. So I'm really interested into seeing how much or how they work within the site. Like, if anyone can just paint themselves anywhere, like if you can do it in your bathtub, or if you actually have to go to Neopia Central and go to the rainbow pool if you have a paintbrush and you want to use it, or just sort of what that whole process is like, what the thought process is behind it. Like, if there are certain paint colors that are frowned upon, like if you were to paint yourself Darrigan, for example, it seems like it would perhaps be a bit insensitive, because the people of Darrigan are like that because of the curse or the magic that happened when the orb was stolen and their land was thrown into famine and anguish, and it just it doesn't seem right to want to paint yourself that color. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm getting off topic, but I'm really excited to see more of the sort of the theme of color explored in this plot. I'm really looking forward to that. But anyways, is there anything else? Um Oh, okay. The other thing, oh my goodness, sorry, in my Brinso rant, I forgot to mention, one of the other things that made me feel like there's a good chance we're going to see them is, again, the introduction of old and new character dynamics, introducing old or iconic characters to new players, and... and the fact that there are, like, super important, relevant characters to the lore who don't even have last names. And you know who that is. Oh my god. Like, I've thought, this is something I've spent my time thinking about the fact that Hanso and Bryn don't have canon last names, which is, unacceptable. Just kidding. But, yeah, I mean, oh my god. It means so much to me that they might be getting last names. They are getting last names. I know it. I can feel it. So, yeah, that's, oh yeah, and we might get, like, an actual storyline to go with the Altador Cup, which is incredibly exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. What else? Oh yeah, okay, so in the Faerie Festival comic, there's a line referring to Fiora, talking about letting a growing sense of dread take root in the recesses of her mind. sort of, which again sort of plays into that, what I would assume would be sort of this vulnerability to the void, this internal struggle that sort of tests you almost in terms of how you will fare, how will you cope. And then I guess since I have the chance now, I'll go over sort of my rationale for these other villains and how their books relate to the plot or the void just quickly. The Darkest Faerie is fairly straightforward. She just straight up fled into the void, so that connection is kind of open and shut. The three, again, there's that line about the void to their mind being open, and the book being described as both there and not there, implying this sort of supernatural presence that almost exists within you. And then there's Vera. Well, we already know that she is going to factor into the plot somehow because, it's essentially been confirmed that the Fairies Festival comic is relevant to the plot, if that wasn't already obvious. There's this line, you shine brighter than any star in the sky, again relating to light, sort of the before of Vera, before her transformation, this sense of happiness and but sort of this almost corruption that exists, or this susceptibility to quote unquote corruption that almost exists within her light because of the sort of very internal focus that her vanity gives her. So there's that sort of gateway to influence, I suppose. And then it goes on to talk about embracing the darkness. So there's this bitterness and this violence in her, which is, again, the dark. The light versus the dark. If you survive the coming terror, then do not impede on the darkness creeping in. I am sure you will start to feel it. Some may already know its tight grip. There is much more at play than what you think is about to happen. So the darkness creeping in, again, something internal. So I don't think that requires a ton of explanation. We've been over Xandra. One other thing I want to mention to her about hers was, again, how it talks about these disappearances always happening at night and only at night. And then we move on to the Shadow Usul. The Shadow Usul's book talks about how these curfews were imposed, so no one was allowed to go out at night at own. I don't think this is the same monster as Xandra's monster, but it does sort of thread this connection between the two. And the Shadow Usul's pupils are described like cosmic maelstroms, which again is very similar to the imagery we see of this sort of void plane. And then it goes on to say, our gazes met and I stared into the void. And then we have a relation to the power of friendship and memories. There is, again, this, with the safety in numbers and the village coming together and them using torches to try to sort of fight off the darkness, is, again, sort of associated with this theme of light versus dark, and in this case the darkness, or we have an example of the darkness winning, literally, in this instance. And then, okay, I've already talked about Sloth, so moving on to Scarblade, who I think is very interesting, because when I first read these, I interpreted them as being set in the past, sort of leading up to the Curse of Maraqua plot. But I actually think they're set in the present, with Scarblade plotting his revenge on Maraqua. And the things he's writing about in this journal do very much sort of encompass the three in terms of greed, ambition, and revenge. One entry says, "The wealth we have acquired could only be matched by those of kings, and the power my crew now holds none could dream to match. However, I hear whispers of a location that not only possesses a new sort of power, but is said to have acquired a treasure unlike any other. It will be mine." So, again, very ambitious, very greedy. And then he goes on to describe how he actually plans to hoard all of this wealth and power for himself once he has acquired it. Okay, and then the final entry in his journal says, "I have found the location. A peculiar new acquaintance of mine has agreed to help me in this search. She and I will set out soon. Only a few know of my departure, and fewer still know of my intended destination. But if all goes according to plan, I will become strong enough not only to wipe New Maraqua off the face of the planet, but all of Neopia if I so wish." So I'm wondering if this new acquaintance is sort of the Dark Faerie from the comic, Dracara perhaps, or someone else. Again, sort of we had greed and ambition in the previous entries, and then this is revenge. He is specifically talking about wiping Maraqua off the map, and this could be interpreted as sort of a prelude to Curse of Maraqua, but I think it is takes place in the current day and is revenge. Revenge on Maraqua for his defeat. This is him building power and coming back stronger than ever to tear the world apart in this spiteful, cruel rage that he has. So that's all of the books, I think. I think that's almost everything I wanted to say. I'm probably forgetting a bunch. I'm so sorry. I wish I had this better organized, but I just had to do it, or I was never going to do it. It had to be now or never. I guess, let's see if there's any connections I forgot to mention. I don't think so. The returning to Neopia theme, again, fits with sort of the real world parallels they were talking about in the AMA. The memories, again, this is gonna make me emotional, fit into that. The friendship. There's the Neovia connection with Orion and Reginald. There is, let's see, the themes of perception and appearance, perhaps, that fit with Vera, and the themes of color and painting and being unable to change back, which also fits with Baelia and other Grey Fairies. There is anything else important? I don't know. There's the pet theme kind of fits with Bythons, who are supposed to be able to travel through the void. I don't know if that helps. Maybe the Faerie can make like a little Python friend and they can help each other out. I don't know. For Cass I wrote, sword is a remnant of the void within him, the void the three left. So I guess that's sort of, my perception of the void again was sort of this internal thing, and I thought maybe the sword was there not as a physical object, but as sort of, again, a memory of the residual energy of who he was, or what they took from him, or what he became, that sort of thing. I mean, he did get vaporized, so maybe he is in the void by the three, so that connection also makes sense. Yeah, sorry. Maybe those neoplots from the front page did actually mean something, because we have the Darkest Faerie connection to the Altador plot. Who else do we have? Let's see, we have Champions of Meridel. It was Battle for Meridel that featured Lord Cass, but we could have a Lord Dargan cameo, actually, because he experienced the three and was able to overcome them. So maybe he has some sort of insight that he can lend to help fight against the growing darkness in this storyline. That would be interesting, actually. Hannah and the Ice Caves. I don't know. There's no direct connection I can think of to any of the characters from Hannah and the Ice Caves here. The Bringer of Night, maybe. He could, I mean, he's not mentioned in any of the stories, but the heart of the mountain is still there, isn't it? So it could be a case of that could somehow maybe lend itself as a weapon against whatever this coming darkness is. I don't know. The Altador plot, again with the Darkest Faerie, the Faerie's Ruin. I've talked enough about that. Virtue Pets. It's interesting that they went with this one instead of Return of Dr. Sloth, but again, this could factor into Dr. Sloth. That's the important part, I suppose. And this is sort of explaining his introductory sort of backstory. Cheers to more adventures in the future. I'm really looking forward to this one. This is great. I'm just so grateful to be here. Like, it means so much to me, truly. I've waited, what has it been, 14 years since the end of the Faeries Ruin? I have been actively hoping and believing in, and, the possibility that we would someday have another plot that was, actually a proper plot. I mean, no offense to anyone who worked on things like the Wraith Resurgence and Lyra and the Lost Heirloom, but it just wasn't the same. And, I already feel that magic again, to have such sort of global engagement in terms of the whole site experience with this plot. It just means so much to me to have Neopets feel so alive again. It's truly incredible. So I think I should probably wrap this up soon. I think I've been over everything. Let's just see what else I have to say in this video.
Then that was over 20 years ago. So, yeah, that would be exciting for me at least.
So, right, I was talking about Neopets Central. Alicia's really a savage.
So I think that's about all I have to say in terms of my own speculation.
Oh my goodness, it's so tiny!
I'm hopefully not forgetting everything. I think I've touched on everything that really stood out to me. in terms of the plot itself, I would really like personally for it to be like a hybrid battle and puzzle plot.
Oh, I still stand by that. Oh my goodness, I hope I actually get to, like, we get some good puzzles where I can actually use my puzzle notebook. It's been so long. Look. That was fun. I want this again.
I just think that kind of has something for everyone. There are fun puzzles to do for people who aren't really invested in the Battle Dome. It really means a lot to me. I love being able to interact with this community, and I just hope we all have a brighter times ahead of us on the new site, or not the new site, but under the new management. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye. Oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I thought that was gonna be painful to watch. It wasn't so bad. This one will probably be worse in retrospect. But yeah, again, I think I've already said everything I want to say. I really, really appreciate everyone who's subscribed and who's commented and who's interacted with me and who's stuck with me, and just being a part of this community is so magical. It's like, and thank you again to Gutterfoot for answering that editorial question, because that was like the first time I really felt seen in the community in a meaningful way. I've just sort of watched from the sidelines, like I was talking about in my Neopian Times video, for so long, and I just, to be the way I am now and to actually be able to interact with people in the community and have Neo friends, and just to be able to find little items that I think people would like, and to exchange gifts, and to just have it be a community experience and not just an individual one, has been such an incredibly magical experience, and it's given me so much joy and almost sort of a sense of security to know that I do have a community and people I can talk to about things I care about and things that I enjoy and are exciting to me, and it's just, my life has changed a lot since the New Era announcement. I know that sounds ridiculous and dramatic, but it's true. It has been such a blessing to me to be able to be part of this community. So thank you so much again. I hope this video was not too disorganized and horrible, but I'm so happy I did it. I got it done. I've been wanting to do this for so long, but I was busy with school and with other projects, and I'm really glad to be here and to be making videos again. So thank you again. And I wish you all the best, and I hope you have fun with the upcoming plot, and that, whatever else is going on with you, I hope this maybe can be a bit of an escape, and we can all just have fun together. So yeah, I'll see you, bye.